Welcome to Happy Hour at the Home Collective. Today we're going to be discussing selling your home and buying your next home at the same time. But first, it's 5 o'clock. It's happy hour. Kristin, what are you drinking?
All right, Bill. I am drinking something called, this is very long. You ready for it? It's by Neshaminy Creek. It's a beer called Gingerbread Rough Puff Pastry Stout with candied ginger, cinnamon, molasses, and lactose. Take a peek at this label.
Wait, all right. That's pretty funky.
Hold on.
A lot of artwork.
Roll it around.
There is a gingerbread man screaming. Oh, wait a minute. Wait, what's going on with this gingerbread man? Is he being like chopped up or something?
It's crazy.
Holy moly. He's in trouble.
Look at this.
He's on fire. Holy crap.
This is quite the label.
This is almost like a Halloween/Christmas beer.
Yeah. So shout out to Justin Wilden again. I know we talk about him a lot, but he's our friend who works at Neshaminy Creek. Billy was hanging out with him a couple weeks ago. He sent Billy home with this for me because he knows that I like the stouts, although I don't typically do a 12.5, which is what this is. But I'm excited to try it. I like those gingerbread molasses flavors, so I'm excited. How about you, Bill?
I'm excited to see your act on a 12.5. It's been a while since we've seen that. I'm just sipping some Woodford Reserve, some bourbon. It was a little chilly today. It was like weird. It's been rainy and a little chilly.
It was like rainy.
Yeah,
that's
cloudy.
Perfect
Haven't seen
thing.
the sun in a while. So I'm just trying to warm up a little bit here. So anyway, cheers. Happy hour.
Cheers. Happy hour.
So what's been going on? You've been getting ready for the holidays?
I have been getting ready for the holidays. In fact, we did some decorating this past weekend. We've always had two trees in our house. We have just like our regular tree, and then we have a funny like 1950s kind of retro pink tree that I put in the living room in that crazy room that you don't like in my house with all the portraits. Yeah, so I have a pink tree in there. And then this year, Billy doesn't know this yet, but he's going to find out when we're done with this podcast. I got a third tree that I want to put in this room. This is my office/library, and it's going to be like kind of like Scottish and Irish themed. Every tree kind of has a little bit of a theme, and this is going to have like a lot of tartan sort of like balls on it, and some strung popcorn. It's going to look like a little old fashioned tree in my library, which I think is going to look really cute.
That's
and
cool.
A bear rug underneath. It has a bear rug underneath.
Of course.
A real bear.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That reeks of Billy. You have the Scottish influence with
I'm
dead
the
animals.
Scottish one, actually.
Oh, are
He's
you?
not Scottish.
I thought
He's
he
Irish.
was.
We're both. No, that's me. We're both Irish, but I'm also
Okay.
Scottish.
Oh, okay.
He's Polish, actually.
Is he?
And he's got a little Cuban. He's got a little Cuban in him.
Oh, Cuban.
You would not think that. His grandfather was Cuban. I know.
Holy moly.
Crazy, right?
He's got a little dash
I'm
of
Irish,
everything.
Scottish, and German. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that should be cool.
I thought the whole kilt thing for your wedding was his idea.
No. Well, it sort of was. So the idea for so we eloped to Scotland for our wedding. And the real reason behind that is we got engaged. Frankly, we got engaged the same year as my brother, and we were going to have a wedding the same year. And they were doing like the big ballroom kind of fancy wedding. And Billy and I had been together for so long, and we were older, and like, I don't know. I just kind of thought, like, I just want to do something just for us. Like, everybody already knows we've been together for so long. And I didn't want to take anything away from, like, my brother and my sister-in-law's day. So we decided to elope. And we had this idea. There's this place in Scotland called Gretna Green, which is just over England's border. And it's a famous destination for people to elope. It's been in, like, romance novels from, like, the, 16th century, basically, where like people would, a lot of times it was like people from like families that didn't approve of one another, or like someone taking their young bride too young bride over the border to get married. So it was this place, and it was actually a blacksmith shop, and this the blacksmith would marry you. So we thought it would be really fun to do that. We told Billy's parents. They were like, yeah, that's fine. You have our blessing. Go for it. We told my parents. it didn't go over as well. And I have to say, like, my parents were usually the cooler kind of the two, like the more laid back, I'll say.
They had beef. They wanted to be there.
Well, you know what it was? I'm the only daughter, and my mom was like very sentimental about my dad walking me down the aisle. That was it. Like they didn't care about where it was going to be, who was going to be there. They were not picky in that sense. My family's not at all religious. So like, it wasn't like a religious thing. It was just like my mom wanted my dad to walk me down the aisle. So we didn't want to upset anyone. We sort of called the whole thing off. And then like 2 weeks later, my parents called and they were like, look, if we can come with you and just do the ceremony with you, and then we'll go off on our own trip through England. You guys go to Ireland and do your trip. But we want to just be there so Dad can walk you down the aisle. And I was just like, perfect. Because we weren't trying to exclude anyone. We were really just trying to make it easy on everyone. That was the whole idea behind it. So that's what we did. It was just us and my parents, my mom and dad, and my dad is Scottish. So both my dad and Billy wore kilts. And now I've lost my dad. Actually, yesterday was 11 years. And now I'm like, that's the most special thing in the world that they were there. I'm so, so happy that they were.
Wow, that's cool.
So yeah, that was a long-winded answer to a
right.
Christmas tree question, but there you go. That was that's our wedding
I was always
story.
under the impression that it was Billy that was the Scottish because I thought he wanted to. Yes, exactly. Okay,
he's got
I'm not crazy.
The sideburns, the whole
He looks it's a little groundskeeper Willie from The Simpsons.
Totally.
I'm totally cutting that out of this podcast. Yeah.
No.
Hear that one.
He'll like that.
Yeah,
he'll like that. He will. So how about you? What's been going on with you?
Not too much. Just getting ready for Christmas and doing some shopping. And, I feel a little guilty about doing this. And I never thought I would. But I've totally been using the Santa card to my benefit. So anytime
to discipline?
Oh, yeah. I never thought.
I love it.
I was always worried about, I don't know, like, this just might sound stupid, but it was like, I always thought it was weird that we lie to kids about Santa. You know what I mean? It's like, then what happens when they find out?
It is weird.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, so what, you just said you lied for 9 years? Like, what's, it's got to be weird. Obviously, I enjoyed it as a kid. So like, I did think about that though. I have one child who just turned 4 and this was before he was even born. I had these thoughts and I'm like, just wasn't sure. Like I felt weird about it. I was having conversations, not totally serious, but I did have a little bit of a concern with that. And then I don't know what happened, but I just fell right in the trap with everybody else. You know what I mean? Just like, it's Santa, So we took them every year to take pictures with Santa. And actually, I can't wait to do it again this year. I think we're scheduled next week to do it. And, but I'm totally using, you don't want to, clean your room, blah, 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 whatever it is. I'm calling Santa. I'm at her. And guess what, man? It works. And I know it's a short-lived thing where it's not going to work much longer, right? Probably a couple of years, but when you're in the battle, you know what I mean? When you're in the fight and you're in the grips of it and you're about to pull your hair out or you're about to scream, it's easier just to be like, you know what? I'm just going to go call Santa. And they're like, no, don't call Santa. All right, what do you need me to do? I'm like, all right, well, here's what I need you to do. You know what I mean? I'm feeling a little bad about it, but I got to be honest. I'm riding it out.
I think every parent does this.
I
think every parent does it.
There's no plan. I'm trying to get through today. You know what I mean? I'm really just trying to get through today with some sanity. Maybe one day without screaming at something. So if the Santa card can help me, keep myself calm, I'm using it. And it just comes, I don't even plan it. It just comes out. And Santa's been kicking ass around here lately. It's been getting a lot done.
I say go for it. I think every parent does that. Here's the funny thing though. I don't have kids, so of course I can't probably weigh in, but I do always think about, gosh, you lie to kids when they're young and then what happens when they find out? But you know what? All that happened to all of us.
Right.
Like we all found out and were we mad at our parents? No. Like there might have been like a what, to our parents, but like beyond that, it ended, no one's going to hold a grudge into their adulthood about Santa.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too concerned.
Yeah.
But that's cute.
It's just a thought.
That's fun. Now, do you and Sheena do the Elf on a Shelf or whatever that thing is? That was not around when we were young.
You know, I wanted to, but Sheena is totally against it. She's just heard horror stories from her friends, and I think all her friends are saying, don't start it.
It's a lot of
work. Don't
work.
start it. And my brother told me that it was hard because he would forget some days, and then he would get out of bed at like midnight and go downstairs and have to move it. And
that's what I hear.
You know? So I don't know.
But isn't that meant to be like a behavioral thing? Like, is that what the whole point of it is?
Probably.
Like it's watching you,
like
right?
Watching
and so you have to be good.
Weird. It's a little weird. Yeah.
Yeah. We never had that growing up. I don't know when that happened.
I don't know. Well, here's what's funny. One quick story about that. My son comes up with these slang terms that mean nothing, and I have no idea where he gets them. So like for months, he was calling everybody Chippy. Everybody was Chippy. Hey, Chippy! I'm just like total South Philly.
I love
We're not
that.
even in South Philly anymore, and he's nicknaming everybody. I'm like, geez. I'm like, I guess it's in the genes. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't seen anybody doing this. So I guess he's been watching me say stupid shit for 4 years, but. You know, everybody was Chippy. Hey, Chippy. Oh, Chippy. What are we going to do, Chippy? I'm Chippy. My wife's Chippy. My dogs are Chippy. The mailman's Chippy. Everybody's Chippy, right? So we're watching the cartoon that is associated with the Elf on the Shelf. Okay? I didn't even know this. Like, they make you watch the cartoon, or they tell you to watch the cartoon before you open up the thing, and the cartoon explains the whole story, right? So this family gets the Elf on the Shelf, opens up the box, and do you know the elf's name is Chippy? We almost fell off the couch. We were like,
No.
what? And he was like blown away. He made this thing up from like a year ago. And I'm like, that's who Chippy is. I swear he had no idea. He never saw that cartoon. It's never been on. And it's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. But then again, I still don't know if we're doing it. I mean, we're not doing it this year. I know that. So who knows? But I just thought that was funny. How everybody was Chippy.
That is hilarious. Well, what were the names of the things that he named? Two things. Like one was like, what were they?
Matt
we were talking about it last time.
The spiders.
Yeah. The spiders.
Yeah.
Skinny Legs and Matt.
Yeah. Skinny Legs and Matt. Yeah.
That's great.
All right, Kristen. We got to take a quick break, and then coming up, we'll get into our listener question.
Okay, Bill, this question that we've got is actually a pretty hot topic because I think the majority of people, well, maybe not the majority, but at this stage in our real estate careers, we have been doing this for over a decade. Mm-hmm. Going on 2 for me. We are dealing with a lot of people who are making the move up, like either a lateral move or a move up. So this question is basically, there were a couple questions about this, but the idea behind it is about selling your home and buying a home at the same time and how you go about doing that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. There were a few questions about it, all a little bit different, but I think that this is a really good topic to talk about. So I'll let you start.
We obviously have clients that, since, like you said, we've been doing this for a while. We have clients that are not first-time home buyers, and they're selling, and they want to go purchase. So obviously, if our clients have the means and they can just, if they're pre-approved to just go purchase a second property, they just go and they buy the property, right? And then they get determined,
and then they sell their home afterwards,
or whatever they want to do to it, right?
Yeah.
But I think what we want to touch on is the complexities of the people that really want to use the proceeds from their current home to buy the second home and the steps that you need to take, because that's when it gets a little bit tricky and you have to kind of line your ducks up in a row in order to make that happen. It's funny because when I was first doing this, like, I don't know, years ago, maybe 2015, it seemed a lot more common then than it does now. And what I realize now that I didn't know then, that a lot of it depends on what's going on in the market, and what's going on with inventory, where you're looking and where you're selling.
Exactly.
I thought it was always a no big deal. I was like, so back in 2015, I was like, okay, no big deal. What we'll do is we'll list your home. We'll list it. we'll get it under contract. And then once it's under contract, we'll go and we'll find your other home and we'll put offers in on it. We'll make it contingent upon your home settling. No big deal. Mm-hmm. That seems so hard to do anymore. And obviously
Yes,
it has to do with inventory, right? It has to do with inventory and it has to do with market conditions. So I would say step one is first, to obviously talk to your realtor, me and Kristen, and then your lender, to make sure you definitely need those proceeds, because maybe you could qualify to go purchase, even if you couldn't put down 20%. You can maybe put down even 3%, and maybe you could start shopping before you need to sell. But let's pretend that we need to sell first. What I would say is talk to your lender first to get the pre-approvals in order. Make sure you have all that stuff lined up with your finances. And then the first two things I would do is look at inventory where you're buying, right? See what's available, see how fast things are going. If you're trying to go to the burbs if you're in the city right now, you're trying to go to the burbs right now or South Jersey right now, stuff's still selling really fast and it's multi-bid, right? Mm-hmm. So you need to know that, right?
Yeah.
And then you need to look at inventory where you're selling, right? You need to see how long. Basically, what you're trying to do is see what's available as far as how many homes are on the market, right? And I used to tell my clients, I'd be like, well, where you want to look first? Let's do some searches. Are you seeing homes that you like more than one? Mm-hmm. Like, are you seeing a bunch? Okay, well, then the inventory's good there. That's good, right? But if it's not, what if it's not? You know what I mean? What if where you're looking, it's scarce? Then what?
Yeah.
You shouldn't probably run and put your home on the market, because unless you have somewhere to go. So I don't think I've done one real recently where my seller really needed those proceeds to go buy. So luckily my clients I've been dealing with clients that have funds and they can just go buy and then we'll figure out their sale later. But have you done one recently where we had to pull those funds and line everything up?
So not recently, honestly, because the market just doesn't allow for it. Most of the people that I'm working with that are doing that move are doing exactly what you just said. They're living in the city. That's where their current home is. And they're moving to the suburbs. And that's where the market is really, really strong. And in the city, it's not super strong. So fortunately for me and for my buyers, I have had a lot of people who, did not need the proceeds. They wanted to make the move. They were able to. So one other little tip is sometimes talk to your lender about this, of course, and see if you qualify. But a lot of times you can purchase, Bill, as you said, with very little down. And then once your home sells, you can do something called recasting your loan, where then you put the 20% down, then you put the rest in, and it doesn't change your loan terms. You don't have to pay closing costs again, all that kind of stuff. So that can sometimes happen. Or there are things like bridge loans, which sometimes people can qualify to kind of hold both mortgages. But I have not had anybody in a while that needed to do this. It is really tricky, and it's 100% dependent upon where their home currently is and where they're looking to move. Because if you're writing an offer for a home in the burbs, or in South Jersey, which is, the same, it's so competitive. And when a seller's looking at multiple offers, they're not even going to entertain something, even with a home settlement contingency. They want as few contingencies as possible. So they're looking for a quick close, no inspections, cash, no contingency, certainly. Having a home sale contingency. So I should also mention there are two things here. One is a home sale contingency. That means you haven't gotten an offer on your house. And who knows when it will sell, from your seller's perspective. The other, which you mentioned, Bill, which we used to do all the time, is put the person's home on the market, wait for it to go under contract, get through inspections, then have them make an offer on something else. And then it just needs a home settlement contingency. So it's a little more favorable in the eyes of that seller, where they're saying, okay, well, at least we know this is already on the market, or already sold, under contract. They've been through the inspections, they've been through the appraisal, we have a settlement date on the books. At least we know this is most likely happening. So that's certainly the preferred. Actually, as we're saying this now, I do have one right now that is, I have clients who have a home in Roxborough. We have it under contract now. They're moving to Florida. Now, the market in Florida, I don't know at all. It's different than here. But they waited. They had been looking at homes down there. They had made a few offers before we even listed their house. And they were not, no seller was even interested in entertaining their offer. So I told them, look, we've got to get your house on the market. We've got to get it under contract. Then you can attempt to make some offers, which they did. And they just had one accepted. And we have not settled on their house in Roxborough yet, but at least we're through inspections. We're through the contingency periods. We're just basically waiting for closing at this point. So yeah, I do actually have one recently, but I'm not working on the buyer side of that one. But it's tricky. It's really, really dependent upon where the home is located that they are selling and where the home is located that they're looking to buy.
So let's just I'm going to say we talk about a generic scenario just as a baseline. And then there's all these other factors that can come into play that would change your course. But just to give, because we kind of spoke about almost all the pieces in a roundabout way, but let's just give an actual scenario. So let's say the inventory in your neighborhood is favorable to you. In other words, there's some houses on, but it's not flooded and things are selling. And let's just say the average days on market's 30 days, right? So you got a good idea and your agent tells you, hey, no problem. We'll put this on. We'll sell it, 3 weeks, 30 days. We should have a buyer. No big deal. So let's say that that's the case. And let's say the same thing is happening where you're buying. Let's say there's a good amount of inventory. You're fine with any number of homes that are in that neighborhood. So it's favorable to you also as a buyer. This is obviously best case scenario.
Yeah, this is really a good case scenario. Yeah.
It does happen. Right now, around here, it doesn't seem to be that way because our areas are lopsided. Like we've been saying, how the burbs is hot and the city's not. And that rhymes, and I didn't do that on purpose. But we're just using this as like a baseline. So the steps would be, right, put your home on the market, get it under contract, get through inspections, and then you could start really putting solid offers together on stuff that you can go look at as a buy side.
Yeah.
Would you agree that that's typically how?
Definitely. Yeah. You would want to, you definitely want to get the ball rolling on your sale property first, if both conditions are favorable to you.
In this imaginary scenario, right? So, all right. So then, you're pretty much wrapped up on your side. All you're waiting for on your home where you're trying to sell is you're waiting for the appraisal to come back, which is obviously a big hurdle. But we typically know, we have a really, really good idea as agents if your home's going to have an appraisal problem or not. Sometimes we're in a season that, we've been seeing issues, and most times we're like, it's no problem. There's plenty of comps. Don't worry about it. So what you're probably going to be doing at that point is just focusing on your buy side. Let's say you find something, you put it under contract, you go through your inspections there, and you see what's going on with that. If you still want the property, you get through inspections there. Now, let's say we're through all the contingencies on either side. Basically, all you're doing at that point is trying to schedule. You could do this on the same day. I've done it on the same day. I'm sure Kristen's done it on the same day.
I've done it on the same day a lot.
You just want to schedule your settlement on your sale home in the early morning, and you could schedule your settlement on your buy side in the afternoon. And you can have the title company on your sale side wire your proceeds right to the title company on your buy side. So you don't even have to touch the funds. They can go straight over, and you could skip your morning settlement and let your agent go for you and just go to your buy side in the afternoon and sign your paperwork.
Yeah.
That would be, that I've done it. It's been a while since I've done it because our markets have been so lopsided, like I said, but that's typically how you would sell and then buy on the same day if you needed those proceeds. So there's all kind of other factors that come into play and all other kind of drama that can happen in the way. But that's typically Would you say, Kristen, did I miss anything?
I do want to, no. And I want to point out that I have done that a lot of times. I mean, that's not an unusual set of circumstances, because the fact of the matter is, if you need your proceeds to go to the next place, where are you going in the meantime? It's not like you can have a settlement on your sale home, on a Monday, and then the following Monday settle on your next home, because where are you going to be for that week? And is your stuff going to be in a storage unit? Are you going to have it sitting on a truck? Like, what are you doing? So most times you have to do it this way, where you have the morning closing for the sale of your home, and then the one you're purchasing in the afternoon. And it sounds crazy, but it's more common than you think. I think that's pretty much the way to do it. But another thing to think about is, what do you have a backup plan? Like, let's just say you have a perfect scenario. Here's another scenario for you, Bill. Tell me what you would do.
All right.
Let's say you have a perfect scenario. You have your home on the market. You get a cash buyer waiving inspections, over asking, too good to be true. You have to take it. But the caveat is, they have a certain day they have to settle, because they're coming here from work, for a new job, and they have to be here by that day. So what do you do? So then you find a home that you want to purchase. It's great. You're under contract, you get through inspections, you're good to go, but those dates can't line up. They just can't. You can't make that seller get out of their house at the same time your buyer wants to buy your house. What do you do in that instance? Your sale has to happen first, obviously, right, because you need the proceeds. But what do you suggest? Do you suggest always having a backup plan to your clients?
Yeah. Well, yes. We would need to talk about all these scenarios. And honestly, these are conversations I would have with a client even before we begun, because I would mention that, there's a chance that one of these, maybe your sales side needs to get pushed a day. Like, all this stuff could happen. What do we do if that? Do you have somewhere to go, or blah, blah, blah? But in your scenario, what I would say is, first of all, what's great about real estate is everything's negotiable, and it can be negotiated and renegotiated, and just
true.
At the end of the day, we have clients that want to buy, and there's another agent that has clients that want to sell, and vice versa, and you're just trying to bring them together. And if you have those things, if you have a buyer that wants to buy and a seller that wants to sell, all you really got to do is get out of the way, and it's going to happen, right? You're going to have to negotiate and keep everybody on track and bring them to the table. But that's a good sign when you have those things. But in your scenario, what I would probably try to do is, I would say, if I have a cash offer and it's just too good where I can't wait, then obviously I'm going to do that deal, and I'm probably going to ask that buyer if I could rent back for a couple of days. That would probably be step one for me. I'd be like, okay, we could settle on this day, but I need another week. So I'll pay you X amount of dollars per day for a week, and I'll be out the next week. Like, that's what I would be trying to do. Now, if that buyer's like, no, I want the house free and clear, you got to have all your stuff out, blah, blah, blah. If it's a banging offer and you got to do it, you got to get out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to get out. You got to get your stuff probably in one of those pods. Might be a good idea. You park the pod out front, unload everything. You got to pay for it for a week if it's worth it, you got to do that. But I would say the first step would probably be to try to rent back for a week. What would you say?
Yeah. The rent back thing, that happens a lot in both sort of scenarios. But renting back, I think, is a big one. I had someone recently, they got a really great offer on their home, and the buyers had to be there that particular day because they started work the next day here in Philly. And so there was no, they couldn't negotiate. They couldn't rent back to the homeowners. So my seller paid for an Airbnb for these particular folks who were coming in from Chicago. They paid for it only ended up being 3 or 4 days, I think. They just could not get the two dates to align because of the sellers on the other side. So they ended up, the offer was so good, they took it, and they basically said, we will pay for you to have an Airbnb for, 3 days or whatever it is. And that way you can be here and you can go to work and you can start your job here in Philly, but we can't be out by that day. So yes, the lease back thing is definitely the first step, and that's not uncommon at all. But but there, you can get creative. You're so right, because that's the thing about this business is I think sometimes whoever's the most creative wins, like you really have to. And when you're meeting with someone who's in this situation as an agent, you have to lay out every scenario. Like that's what I do at the listing appointment. I'm like, okay, so we get an offer before you find something. What's your plan? We get an offer. It's too good to be true. They need to settle, in 30 days. And what's your plan? I always try to kind of give them all of the scenarios that could possibly happen so that they're thinking about, not to stress them out, because this is already a very stressful thing to sell and buy at the same time. But what is your plan? What are we going to do here if any of these scenarios occur? So
no, you're so right. Like
yeah.
the fun part is just like when you get stuck, just asking questions and trying to figure out where the log jam is. And just keep asking questions and find out what the real root of the issue is.
Yep.
And then
what is the real motivation?
You could figure
always.
a way out of that and around stuff. But there are so many other scenarios that can come into play here when you're selling and buying at the same time and need those proceeds. It can be done. This market we're having now around here, again, is not to be repetitive, but is a little lopsided. So that's kind of tricky. But let's just say you were selling in the city, for example, right now, and you wanted to go to the burbs and you needed those proceeds. You're probably looking at putting your home on, selling it, and finding intermediate housing. Is that the right word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this booze is kicking in. So, you probably need to do that. Right. If you're in a market where like stuff's sitting 90 days and you're unsure and we're seeing price reductions, you're not even sure where it's going to go, but you're also sure you definitely want to move, then you're probably going to list, sell. You might have to rent. God forbid, maybe you have to move in with some family.
Oh.
That'll spook you.
Can you imagine?
That'll spook you to pick something, So, So now on the other end, let's say you were in the burbs and wanted to move to the city. You could go shopping, right? You can go shopping in the city right now. You could probably look for something, right? And put it under contract and have it contingent upon your house selling in the burbs. Like not even start in the burbs. You could probably get away with that, right? Wouldn't you say?
You probably could. Yeah, you probably could. So I think that's worth mentioning. Yeah. I mean, if that's the move that you want to make, which actually I am working with someone right now in this scenario. She did not need to make it contingent, but we talked through so she lives right now in Jenkintown in Montgomery County, and she was moving to, she's kind of starting this new chapter in her life. She's retired. She's so great and cool. And she wants to start this new life in Old City in a condo. She just wants to come to the city and like live in this. I think it's awesome. But anyway,
what's the price point? Not to get off track.
Oh, she's under contract already.
What was the price point?
$850.
Damn. Why didn't we talk about this?
Because she's been under contract for a little while. It's been a couple.
Well,
it's been like a month or so.
Well, this has been.
Yeah,
6
she hasn't
months.
settled
All
yet, but she's under contract.
Sidebar. All right.
So anyway,
sidebar. Remind me to yell at you later. All right. Keep continuing.
Okay. So anyway, she talked to her agent in the burbs. That's not me. It's the person she bought the house with. So she's being loyal to them, which I always appreciate. But she is using me to purchase in the city. And we had like multiple conversations. We had like conference calls, like let's all discuss how we're going to manage doing this. Because when she puts her house up in Jenkintown, it's going to go in the first weekend. They're going to do an open house and it's going to sell. Can she find something in Old City that quickly? Probably not. But she ended up finding something quickly enough, and she didn't need to do the home sale contingency, but at the same time, she didn't want to carry these two properties for very long. So she can carry two, but she certainly doesn't want to. So there's a whole strategy in that. Like, okay, so now that we're under contract for the condo in Old City, now's the time, and we're through everything. We've gone through the condo docs, we've gone through inspections. Now's the time to list your home in Jenkintown so that can start building momentum, because even if it gets an offer on the first day, it's probably not closing for 30 to 45 days. So she probably will only have 1 month. The way we worked it out, she'll probably only have 1 month, if that, that will be an overlap, and probably not even, because when you settle on a home, the latter half of the month, your first mortgage payment isn't due the next month; it's due the following. So she may not even have. It might be a total wash, and she may not even have to pay for 2 months. But I mean, there was strategy involved in the order of all of this. So you just really want to work with someone who gets that and will walk you through all of those options from the beginning and all the different what ifs.
And everybody's on board and working together to make this happen for you. So in other words, with Kristin's client who was selling in the burbs, like if she were the listing agent on something that this woman was coming to buy, and she was making a contingent, let's just say, on her sale in the burbs, Kristin knows the burbs. She knows if once the client gave Kristin the address, she could just look it up and say, oh, that's going to sell in 2 seconds. This contingency is nothing. It's not even a contingency, really. Right. She probably doesn't even need it. So, but let's just say they're coming from another part of the country. Then we would call that agent and get a background on the area. And then we're all working together. So it's like, even though there's 2 agents in the deal, okay, let's just say there's a seller and buyer in the area. If you're coming from another part of the state that you're selling from, or another part of the country that you're selling from, now we're working with that agent and we're trying to coordinate everything. We'll go back and coordinate with that agent on your sale there, for your purchase here, and it goes down the line. You could be 3-4 agents deep, because I did this deal in Bella Vista over COVID where I had my buyer, I had the seller, the buyer was from New York, and they had a buyer. So I was like 3 chains down. I had to deal with some guy. I had no clue who he is or his agent, a buy side on the buyer for my property.
On the seller side,
right. Not only do I not know the buyer, I don't know the buyer's buyer. You know what I mean? I have no clue. But you're always making phone calls, talking to agents, and we get it, and we all work together because we all had the same goal: getting everyone to settlement. So it can happen. There's a lot of caveats to it, but that's why you have a consultation in the beginning with your agent to figure all this stuff out, go over all the scenarios. And then eventually, when the planets align, you make your sale and your settlements. Yeah.
It's there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of variables, and every situation's a little bit different. So that is not to be an advertisement for ourselves, but that really is the reason to, work with an agent who's experienced and has been through this before, because there really are so many different things to navigate. It's possible. It's possible.
It's possible.
We can get
this
it
is
done.
fun. I like these topics where we're kind of there's all these different scenarios. There's no one straight answer. It's just kind of a roundabout to give just almost like a blimp view of how these parts move. And I think that was a lot of fun. So happy we did that.
And different ways to be creative to make it happen too.
Absolutely. All right, Kristin, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we touched on this. We could probably go on and on and on with it, and
we could.
A million different scenarios, and maybe we will in the near future. But anyway, we got to get out of here. So I will see you is our Christmas dinner? Is that soon? What's going on? Is that next week?
Seriously?
10 days? Is that 10 days?
It is
10
next
days.
week.
All right.
It's next week.
All right, but I'm going to see you here before there. We're going to do this again before we do dinner.
Yes.
Right, we have 10.
Yes, we're going to have coffee.
Yes.
We're going to have coffee before we have dinner.
That's all I'm just trying to figure out in my...
The way it usually goes.
Dude, I'm dealing with Chippy and the elf on the shelf and all this Santa. And come on, man.
I know.
Jeez.
I know.
Go spring
I just
chicken
can't believe
over
we're
here.
getting both balls for our team dinner this year. This is so exciting.
Get a ball sandwich. All right, I'll have to
so exciting.
All right. Anyway, Kristin, have a good weekend. I will see you at Coffee Break.
See you at Coffee Break. Bye-bye.